Bitcoin whales, which are basically wallets that have more than 1,000 Bitcoin in them, they have actually been decreasing quite a bit. So we can see that we had 2,134 wallets that had more than 1,000 Bitcoin before the FTX crash. This is about October time, 2022. We are down at 2,025 wallets now. Essentially, that is over 5% reduction in terms of the number of whales that are invested in Bitcoin. So I don't think I'm going to be doing much walking today in this walk and talk video. So this is more going to be a talk with some scenery in the background. As you can see, we've got a little bit of a flood. I'm not going to be able to continue walking up this path anymore. But what I am going to do is I'm going to stand here and I'm going to tell you guys about what's going on with Bitcoin. As I get into today's video, if you do find it useful and informative, smash that like button. I really do appreciate that. If you're new to the channel, subscribe, tap the bell, select all the notifications, and in doing so, you will be kept up to date with everything that we do here at Cheeky Crypto. So let's talk a little bit around Bitcoin and what is going on. So we continue to see volatility when it comes to BTC. We have seen some moves to the downside. Now, I discussed a lot of the technical analysis on Bitcoin this morning as I kind of walk through the different structures, the different patterns, and what I think is going on when it comes to the technical analysis. We cover the 1 hour, the 1 day, and the 1 week timeframes. A few key points that I think is probably worth just noting is Bitcoin is on the verge of either a breakout, i.e. moves back up to the upside, or a break to the downside. And the numbers for this are essentially a breakout being something that we see in terms of price moving above $43,550, and a breakdown will happen when we see price move down and close below the 40,222. This is basically the swing high that we've seen most recently in terms of the 43,550 and the swing low at 40,222. Now, if we see the breakdown, that's basically going to be, in my opinion, forcing us into a more bearish situation where we talk about $37,000, $38,000 Bitcoin. If we move back up, then we've kind of already finished the first 5 waves to the downside. We'll probably be talking about moving up towards $43,500 to $44,000 before progressing back to the downside. So what's going on with Bitcoin? Well, we see a lot of volatility. That volatility is, of course, causing a lot of retail pain right now. We've seen another $34 million of liquidations for Bitcoin in the last 24 hours, of which, if I look at my notes here, it's 71.32% long positions that were completely wiped out, and 28.68% being the short positions that are wiped out. So we know that a fair amount of liquidations are happening, and we're not talking hundreds of millions, but we are talking pretty sizable amounts for very little liquidity or volatility within the price action. We haven't seen huge spikes to the upside or huge spikes to the downside, yet we still see $34 million of liquidations. In terms of exchanges, well, Binance is the top of the list, with $13 million of liquidations, and we see OKX in second place with an $8.5 million liquidation. So we're not talking, again, vast, huge numbers or anything like that, but we are seeing pretty decent numbers nonetheless. The other thing that we need to kind of talk about here in today's video is going to be the wallet data, and I'll try to share some of this on the screen with you guys as well, because I talk about it quite a bit in the Discord with our member AMAs, and I talk about it at least once a week or so on the YouTube channels, discussing kind of the movements of Bitcoin whales and what's going on with buying and selling and all that kind of stuff. And well, we can see, if you take a look at Bitcoin whales, which are basically wallets that have more than 1,000 Bitcoin in them, they have actually been decreasing quite a bit. So we can see that we had 2,134 wallets that had more than 1,000 Bitcoin before the FTX crash. This is about October time, 2022. We are down at 2,025 wallets now. Essentially, that is over 5% reduction in terms of the number of whales that are invested in Bitcoin today versus pre the actual bear market low points and pre-FTX and all that. So we know that there's not really a huge appetite for Bitcoin whales to be in the space, or there hasn't been a huge appetite for these institutional level investors to be investing in BTC. We see that they're actually down quite aggressively. And again, this isn't anything too uncommon, you know, in the way that we haven't really seen them buying up. We saw them basically offloading into FTX. We see them offloading as prices moving up early 2023 as well. And so we aren't seeing anything kind of like giving us kind of hope that, you know, we're going to see, you know, massive rallies to the upside without their support. There's still a sizable amount of Bitcoin whales there. Of course there are. There's over 2,000 of them, but it's still not anywhere near as strong as it was in the 2021 surge to the upside, and it's not as strong really as to kind of what we had seen previously or what we would expect to see of those bullish markets. Now, when you go up another layer, you can talk about the whale or the Kraken size wallets, the people who have, or the institutional investors that have over 10,000 Bitcoin in their wallets. And well, pre-FTX, they were hovering around 115 wallets towards the end of 2022. Now, they actually spent a lot of time accumulating during that bear market, right? They were actually buying up during all of the initial surges to the downside. And then once we get into 2023 and price starts to move on up, they start to reduce down. We are currently on 105 wallets. That's a reduction of 10 wallets owning 10,000 Bitcoin or more, which is 8.7% down during 2023. So we have consistency here with these larger level investors not really investing in Bitcoin, but instead offloading in 2023. We see, you know, over 5% offloading their Bitcoin in 2023 if they have over 1,000 Bitcoin in their wallet. And we see 8.7% offloading during 2023 if they are really large investors investing more than or 10,000 Bitcoin or more in their wallet, right? Heavy hitters. And so when we take a look at the smaller size wallets, well, they're all buying up what is basically being sold by the larger investors. Basically, small wallets are increasing, large wallets are decreasing. I'm getting a little bit wet here, so I'm going to put my hood up as it is raining. I apologize, guys. I'll try to get out of the rain in a moment once we kind of wrap this video up. But I wanted to put a video out there to kind of talk about how we have our targets, right? We know we're going to have a breakout or a breakdown based on where price is likely to gravitate towards and what they might mean for Bitcoin on the kind of larger scale. And we also know the liquidations are still pretty healthy in terms of the amount of liquidations that are occurring. But we also note that there isn't really a lot of appetite for large investors to come in to Bitcoin. They haven't been buying up Bitcoin in the droves. We haven't seen retail investors kind of getting shaken out of the space yet. We haven't seen that capitulation, or at least that second capitulation. We haven't really seen any of that. If you dive down into the wallets, or the smaller sized wallets, they've been steadily increasing during 2022 and 2023, whereas the larger investors have steadily been decreasing rather than increasing. So I guess I wanted to put the video out there to kind of say, you know, we are still expecting moves back to the downside, but I am confident that many of these altcoins and or Bitcoin and many of these altcoins are actually in pretty strong positions for a bullish market, hopefully in 2024, but we are still expecting a major pullback to the downside first, where we see a shakeout of retail investors. Not massive amounts, probably 20 to 30% reductions in terms of the number of wallet holders on the larger side or on the smaller side. So we talk about like retail investors. I'm expecting 20 to 30% reduction in those wallets with 1 Bitcoin or 10% of a Bitcoin or 1% of a Bitcoin. I expect those wallets to be the most vulnerable ones to kind of get hit by about 20 to 30%. That equates to about 3 million BTC coming into the marketplace to be sold off. And it's that Bitcoin that I think the larger institutional investors are looking for. It's that Bitcoin that they want to buy up, in my opinion. Or that, or they're waiting for a Bitcoin spot ETF to get involved. So I think we are at the kind of the point in time now where in this next pull back to the downside, I think is the one that we want to be kind of buying into, the dollar cost averaging into. And I think that's really where a lot of the retail investors are potentially going to be making substantial amounts of cash. I'm going to leave this video there, get out of the rain. If you have found it useful and informative, smash that like button. I do appreciate that. If you're new to the channel, subscribe. If you haven't joined us in Discord, what are you waiting for? Check it out. Link is in the description down below. Until the next one though, guys, have a fantastic day.